right, so dot and box plots. This might be a review for some of you, at least the dot plots and box plots. So a dot plot can be used to show both quantitative and categorical data. Each dot represents one unit of measure. We list the numbers or categories along the bottom of a number line. It's important that if it's a numbers, that you would use all numbers that are included as well as equal intervals. Okay? So for example, if we had a data set that all numbers were in between 1 and 10, but we were missing like a number 5, you still have to include it on the number line. You just don't put any dots above it. Then we place dots above the number or category each time it occurs in the data set. Sometimes people use X's instead of dots, and that's fine. Okay. Back to the intervals, if it's like a category, for example, grades, which our grades are A, B, C, D, and F, you don't have to include E because it's not a grade. You understand what I'm saying? All right. So here we have make a dot plot of the following quiz scores. So we need to make sure that we still include a title. So we're going to make our title quiz scores. Then we'll create a number line. And we want all data that's being represented. These are 5s, so we're going to go by 5s, and it starts at 70 and our highest is 100. So we're going to go from 70 to 100. Okay? So 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, 100. All right, now each time a data point is used, you're going to place a dot above that data point. It's important that your dots are equal in size and equal in spacing, because if you don't make them equal in spacing, then if you have 2 dots in one and 3 dots in another, and the 3 dots is smaller than the 2 dots, it looks weird, okay? But it doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so I have 2 70s. I like to mark off the numbers as I use them so that I don't make any mistakes or leave out any numbers. I have 2 75s. I have 3 80s. I have 1 85, 2 90s, one 95, and 2 100s. All right, box and whisker plots. So a box or whisker plot is represented here. It has categories or sections, okay, or quartiles. These are quartiles. We have to have our median, which is going to be in the middle. I know it doesn't look like it's in the center of the whole thing, but it's our middle number, which we'll talk about in a minute. We have an upper quartile and an upper extreme, and a lower quartile and a lower extreme. Okay, those are what we need to include in our data set. So, first what we do, we find the median. So we have to list all of our numbers in order and then find the median. Okay? Then we're going to find the median of the numbers above the median. Okay? And that's going to give us our upper quartile. That's what Q stands for, upper quartile. Then we're going to find the median of the numbers below the median, which is going to give us our lower quartile. Then we're going to find the largest and smallest numbers in the data set, which will give us our upper extreme and our lower extreme. Then we're gonna draw a line with an appropriate scale that includes all of the data. So this is where yours might be different than somebody else's because you might use a different number set, okay? But you wanna make sure that if your numbers are really far apart, that we use like 5s or 10s. But if your numbers are really close together, you might wanna use 1s, okay? Or 2s or something like that. Then we're gonna draw the box with the median, the upper quartile, and the lower quartile. Then we're gonna draw the whiskers with the upper extreme and the lower extreme, okay? Well, let's practice. Okay, so we're gonna make a box and whisker plot with the following data. So we need to list our data from least to greatest. So I have 5, 6, 7, 10, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 25, 25, and 29. Okay. So now I'm going to find my median, the middle number. Instead of scratching them completely off, I'm going to put little X's or lines on the bottom. All right, so 13 is my median. Okay, now we need to find our upper quartile, which is the median of the upper section. We're not going to include 13 because it is one of the values. All right, so we're going to find our median here. So I'm just going to make a little X, and we have two numbers. So when we have two numbers, we have to find the average, the in-between. So 16 plus 25, and then divide that by 2. And you should get 20.5, which that will give me my upper quartile. Okay? We're going to do the same thing to find our lower quartile. Okay, it's going to be in between 7 and 10. So I'm going to add 7 plus 10, which is 17. 17 divided by 2 is 8.5. Lower quartile. Okay. Now we need to find our lower extreme and upper extreme. So 5 is my lowest number, so that's going to be my lower extreme. And 29 is my highest number, so that's going to be my upper extreme. Now that we have everything identified, we're going to create our box and whisker plot. So we need to draw a number line. So 5 to 29 is pretty far apart, but not like extremely far. So I'm going to go by 2s, starting at 4. Okay, because you don't have to start at 0. So I'm at 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30. You want to try making them as evenly spaced as possible. However, if you make a mistake, just, it's fine. It's not a huge deal. Okay, now we're going to draw our box. So at 13, which is in between 14 and 16, but closer to 14, I'm going to draw a line up. I'm going to label this 13 so that we know what the value is. Okay? Then at 20.5, our upper extreme, I'm going to draw a line. So it's around 20, draw a line up, label it 20.5. Then at 8.5, our lower quartile, not our upper extreme, our upper quartile, I'm sorry. Yes.
Why did you put 13 and 14, 16? It should be between 12 and 11.
Our median is
Yeah,
13.
13 should be 12.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. No, I'm sorry. It should be in between 12 and 14. I don't know. Thank you. I'm sorry. Yes. Yes. Between 12 and 14. Then we're going to put our lower quartile, which is 8.5, which is round 8. and label it 8.5. Okay? Then we're gonna draw the box. Okay? Connect lines, draw a box. Okay? Then we're gonna put in our lower and upper extremes. So for our lower extreme is at 5, so that's in between 4 and 6. I'm gonna place a dot there. I'm going to label the dot 5. Connect dot to box. At 29, which is in between 28 and 30, I'm going to put a dot, label it 29, connect dot to box. Ta-da. Okay, so now we're going to create a box and whisker plot with this data, okay? So I'm going to start with 20. Then we have 40, 41, 47, 48, 48, 51, 57, 60, 61, 65, and 68. I'm sure I'm not missing any numbers. Okay. So now let's find our median. Should be middle. So we're in between 48 and 51. So 48 plus 51 divided by 2 is 49.5. So our median is at 49.5. Okay, so now I need to find the medians of my upper and my lower, to find my upper quartile and my lower quartile. So I'm going to include 51 because it's not my median. Okay, my median's in between those two numbers, so I need to include this number. So I'm going to scratch off 51, 68, and then again, I'm stuck in between 60 and 61, so that would be 60.5. And that is my upper quartile. Then we're going to do the same thing for find my lower quartile. So that's in between 41 and 47, which would be 44, and that would be my lower quartile. Now we need to identify our upper and lower extremes. My lower extreme is 20, and my upper extreme is 68. What?
By 10
I'm going to by 5, so I can include like the data in between, starting at 20. But you could probably go by 10s if you wanted to. Again, doesn't have to be perfectly spaced. We want to try making as even as spaced as possible. It's not a huge deal if it's not, but it makes the data look neater. Okay, so we're going to start with our median at 49.5, which is almost 50. So just a little bit next to 50, I'm going to draw a line up and label that 49.5. Then our upper extreme is 60.5, so a little bit above 60. Draw a line, label it 60.5. Our lower extreme is 44, which is right before 45, and label it 44. Our lower quartile. Draw a box. Our lower extreme is 20, so I'm going to place a dot there, draw a line, and label it 20. At 68, right before 70, or near 70, we're going to put a dot, label it 68, draw a dot, or line to box. Before we move on, I want to just talk about some things. How many sections are these broken up into? 4, right? And if this is called the lower quartile, we just call the upper quartile. Quartile stands for 4, okay? So what do you think each section is worth? Like what percent? 25, right? So anything that is in this bottom quartile, my lower quartile, my lowest quartile, it would be worth 25%. Anything in this section would be 25%, 25%, and 25% of the data that's being represented. Okay, I understand that this line is huge, but it just means there's less data, or the data is more spaced out there. Okay? But it still represents 25%. And so anything above the median is 50%, and anything below the median is 50%. Okay? So their next part that's going to help us out. Okay, so what percentage of the data is above 7.5? So first off, we gotta draw 7.5 on here because we don't have that. So that's 7.5, 11.5, 14.5, 7.3. So above 7.5, 75%, because there's 3 quartiles. 1, 2, 3. How about in between 14.5 and 23? 25%. How about below 11.5? 50%. And then this is the newer part that we use with box and whisker parts. It's called the interquartile range. Okay, we've talked about range, which is the difference between the highest and lowest number. Well, our interquartile range is the difference between our box here. So it's going to be 14.5 minus 7.5. 7. Okay? So we're going to take 14.5 and we're going to subtract 7.5. We're taking our upper quartile and minusing our lower quartile.